This fall, bring the beauty of the Rabbit Room into your own community with House Moot. It's a self-hosted gathering where your living room, church, or backyard becomes a place for shared stories, songs, and sacred conversations. With recorded sessions, recipes, activities, discussion questions, and a gathering guide, we'll set the table for you. All you have to do is bring the guests. Get everything you need to host your own House Moot at rabbitroom.com/housemoot.
Hey friends, it's Jonathan Rogers. Before we get started with the episode, I want to tell you about the Focus Retreat that's coming up at the end of October. In many long years as a writer, I've learned two things. One, when I need to jumpstart a project or get big chunks written, it's really helpful to get away and get significant time alone. And two, significant time alone can pull me into a whirlhole of self-absorption that makes it nearly impossible for me to jumpstart a project or get big chunks written. It's the great paradox of the writing life, this need to be alone, competing with the truth that the inside of your brain can be a pretty rough neighborhood where it isn't always safe to be alone. That's why I put together the Focus Retreat, October 26th through the 30th, at the beautiful Scarrett Bennett Center in Nashville, Tennessee. The idea of the Focus Retreat is simple. You'll have 4 days dedicated to focused work on your current work in progress, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, or poetry. You'll have big chunks of time to write, punctuated by 3 check-ins a day at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus evening events designed to keep the fountain of creativity flowing. One night we'll hear Nashville songwriters playing in the round. We'll spend one evening at the Rabbit Room's Northwind Manor. We'll hear from a working writer or two. To summarize, the Focus Retreat is 4 days in October in which your only responsibility will be to write. We'll feed you, give you a place to stay, give you time and space to write. You'll have plenty of alone time, but you won't be isolated. You'll have the support, accountability, and fellowship of writer colleagues who are having the same experience as you. If you're looking to make progress on a writing project, the Focus Retreat could be a huge boost. Participation is limited to just 20 writers. If you're hearing this, there's still some space left. You can find out more about the Focus Retreat and register at thehabit.co/retreats. That's thehabit.co/retreats.
The thing that I love about murder mysteries is that no matter how clever the bad guy is, evil cannot hide forever. And I just find that a very deep, encouraging truth, especially as I've grown up and become an adult and I've seen more injustice and I see more brokenness. But for me, what makes the genre meaningful is that the motherlode of the book is spent trying to find the truth. And I think that's important for our world.
Welcome to the Habit Podcast, conversations with writers about writing. I'm Jonathan Rogers, your host. Katherine Ladny Mitchell is a mystery writer. Not to Be is the first in Bandersnatch Books' Pen and Paintbrush mystery series, in which a writer and a painter, two sisters, work together as amateur sleuths. In this episode, Katherine and I talk about the rules of mystery stories and how they apply to other kinds of storytelling. And we discuss the ways that the habit of art could make artists of all kinds good crime solvers. Katherine Mitchell, I'm so glad to have you on the Habit Podcast. I'm excited about your mystery novel, Not to Be.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so give us the 90-second version of what Not to Be is about.
So Not to Be obviously is a famous line from Hamlet. And in my murder mystery, there are two sister sleuths, reluctant sister sleuths, actually. The older sister is named Kathy, and she is a community news writer, but she suffers from an anxiety disorder, basically brought on from all the news scenes that she's covered over the years. Mm-hmm. And her therapist has this brilliant idea that she should start pursuing other interests to help get her mind off of things. And for whatever reason, she decides to join the local theater company, which happens to be performing Hamlet. But that's fake death. So she thinks that everything will go fine, except that when she is actually giving the performance, Hamlet dies on stage for real doesn't get back up. And her sister, who is who's an art student and also Kathy's roommate, sees the whole scene from the view of the audience. And Liz, in addition to being really snarky and just a fun bringing a lot of humor to the story. She's really good with what she sees. She has an eye for detail.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because Kathy happened to be on site during the actual murder, her editor orders her to cover it, even though she would obviously rather not. And so she and her sister both have to use their audio visual strengths to solve the crime. And that's basically the shtick of the
Uh-huh.
pen and paintbrush mystery series.
So this is the first of a series, right?
This is the second novel, actually, is going to be released next summer.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Is it going to be based on another play?
No, I did actually take another famous line from a different Shakespeare play called Othello. So the working title is Loved Not Wisely.
Uh-huh.
But the publishers and I are still working to figure out maybe a different name that might be a bit more recognizable than just a one-liner from Shakespeare.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, but one of the things that I want to do is have the last line of my manuscript always be the title of the book. So we will need to figure that out before next summer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I love this idea of sleuths that are a writer and a painter. Different people who their job is to observe and pay attention to details. Yeah, but talk to me about why writers and painters, at least in theory, can make good crime solvers.
Well, I've never actually solved a crime,
Have.
No. Although I am really good at guessing the answer when we watch them on our favorite mystery series online. But basically, I think it's a lot easier. From the view of the artist, the painter, they're trained to notice very subtle details.
Mm-hmm.
In the second book, for example, Liz recognizes the shade of nail polish that somebody wears, and that becomes an important clue to the identity of the victim in book 2. And then with the writer, I think writers have a good understanding of character, and when you have a crime, you have to have a criminal. And so I feel like what they bring to the genre is probably a better understanding of motive and an understanding of plot, of course. So I think that at least is one plausible reason why writers and painters can make good sleuths.
Yeah, means motive opportunity is pretty central to any story, right? I mean, not just a mystery story, but in any story you're telling, even if you're not constantly thinking about it, you're having to account for means, motive, and opportunity for whatever happens in the story. And that's such an important formula for mystery writers. I taught a writing class based on Dorothy Sayers' mystery a couple of years ago, and it was really fun to think about the ways that mystery storytelling is kind of a concentrated and a schematized version of what we're all having to do when we tell stories. You're really paying attention to how you deliver, but also withhold information, and you've got these unspoken rules of the solution has to be there, hidden somewhere. You got to put it in there, but you also got to paper over it. Mystery. I just think mystery writing is. I don't know that I would ever do it, but it's so interesting to think about. How did you get in the mystery writing business?
Well, when I was in 10th grade, we had, I was going to a public school, but we had a really awesome English teacher, and she gave us a list of authors to choose from, and we had to read a novel by that author. And then she wanted us to read literary criticism of that author, and then use the novel that we read to either agree with or disagree with the criticism of that author. And it was my favorite paper I ever wrote in high school. And I had chosen Agatha Christie, and I read And Then There Were None. So that was my first.
That's the one where they're on an island and they die one at a time?
Yep. And I thought it was incredibly clever. I didn't love the ending. And Agatha Christie, I believe, was actually a part of the detective club that Dorothy Sayers started.
Yeah.
And Agatha Christie had a tendency to break the rules, mystery writing. But for her, it really worked well because she became such a famous authoress. But I think that was probably my first deep dive into the mystery genre, because I had read like Nancy Drew when I was in elementary school, but I didn't really understand what was going on. So it wasn't until I was in high school that it started to make a bit more sense. And the thing that I love about murder mysteries as a genre, and Dorothy Sayers has, she hints at this in one of her Lord Peter Wimsey mysteries when she talks about the pursuit of justice. But the thing that I love about murder mysteries is that no matter how clever the bad guy is, evil cannot hide forever. And I just find that a very deep, encouraging truth, especially as I've grown up and become an adult and I've seen more injustice and I see more brokenness. And I mean, murder is the first part of that genre. Murder is not a fun thing. But for me, what makes the genre meaningful is that the entire, the motherlode of the book is spent trying to find the truth. And I think that's important for our world.
But you as the writer are hiding the truth most of the time.
Oh, well, yeah. If you said who did it right at the beginning, it would be fun.
That's right. Yeah. I love the idea that the death occurs on stage, everybody looking, and we have our two sleuths both see the event. If I'm not, the Kathy sees it from backstage, right? And I know Liz sees it from the audience, and that really becomes a point of view question, right? I mean, Liz can see some things, Kathy can see some other things, and how much thinking were you doing about point of view when you were? I mean, it's not point of view in the sense of we still have the same point of view character, and yet the different people seeing different things is so important to, well, not just your story, but many stories.
Well, what I wanted to do was, again, play to my character's strengths. So, yes, Liz is the artist, and so she sees everything. But backstage, it's dark. And so Kathy is actually going by mostly what she hears, the backstage banter between different characters. And so that's why they both have to come together and work as a team to put their observations together to figure out who was where when, and just to try to figure out who did it.
Yeah. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but I guess I'm about to. I love it in the opening chapter or two. I guess it's just the opening chapter. We've got our point of view character, Kathy, who's stuck in a what's the garment she's stuck in?
Corset.
A corset. That's right. And she can't get it untied. She can't get anybody to help her untie it. And the sort of rising tension that you develop through the process of her not being able to breathe and wanting some relief, and then something happens for a minute that gets your mind off the corset, and then our attention is drawn right back to the corset as soon as that slows down. I love that device. I thought the way you managed that very minor inconvenience as a way of developing tension, which also gave you the opportunity to do a lot of other things. Like, we get introduced to all our suspects while she's stuck in this corset. and I don't know, it's one of those things where I don't think anybody who reads your book that's going to be the thing they remember. But I thought it was such a good example of the way that what we remember in a story is the sort of, the fireworks and the spectacular ending and all that kind of stuff. But the truth is, most of writing a book is tending to those little things, like a woman who can't get her corset untied, and I love the way you were managing that very minor, seemingly minor thing, but you got all the goodie out of it. I guess that's not a question. That's just me admiring something that you did. So,
Well, thank you. I read a really helpful book years ago, and I think it was written by somebody named Rorden, but I can't swear to it. But the title of the book was "Don't Murder Your Mystery," and
okay.
one of the things that they talked about was keeping that tension. And every writer needs to keep tension. You want your reader to turn the next page. You want them to start the next chapter. So it would be really boring if my character walks up to this character, has an interaction, walks up to another character, has an interaction. But by putting something that is distracting, and for me, I just chose the corset because she happened to be wearing one under her costume.
Right.
That does it makes a connection with your audience, because everybody's been in an awkward situation before. So it kind of develops this I don't know, this tie with the reader, because they can relate. And then it is a way of having rising tension, instead of her just going to character A, having an interaction, character B, having an interaction. And so anyway, I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Yeah, I really appreciated it. I'm always looking for those little things that make a story work, because you can't, especially when I think about teaching writing, I don't know how you teach the spectacular ending, right? That's something, and that's usually what somebody is. I'm going to ask you a question about that here in a minute too, but that's usually what somebody has gotten into the business for, was the big, exciting, stuff. But it's the blocking and tackling that thankfully is teachable. But it's also, that's what really makes a story. You spend all your time working on you spend most of your time working out things like somebody stuck in a corset. But then what gets quoted is, what gets remembered really is the big ending or whatever. And, but we don't need to spend any more time on this, but I just thought it was a reminder to me that this is where most of the work happens. It's not coming up with a big quotable moment. It's just keeping things moving.
And if you don't put that work in on keeping tension for page after page after, because I mean, my sister read the book and she was like, Katie, it's a 88 page book. She's like, it's a really long one. But if you've done your homework, you can keep them turning page after page. And if you can make the reader forget how long the book actually is,
yeah, right.
Then that is the success beyond what just happens in the last 10 pages or so.
Yeah. So when you started writing the story, did you know what was going to happen in the last 10 pages?
Yes. So I don't know how other people do it, but basically when I write a mystery, I start with the crime itself. How does somebody actually die? That would be a reasonable thing that you could potentially cover up. And then the second question I asked was, well, why? Why is this person being murdered? And then from that, story just kind of basically generates itself. And once you figure out what actually happens, it's almost like you have you're overlaying what actually happens with then, okay, well, now let's tell the story of how our characters figure out what actually happens. And pretty much you're just tossing red herrings at
right.
at them left and right, just to keep things fun. But so it's almost like you're writing two stories. at the same time.
I'm sorry. What are the two stories? I think you're about to say. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. So you're writing the story of what actually happened. So, and so was really jealous of this person because for years this happened, and then they hear this thing and they make this plan, and then they execute this plan, and then after they can't just disappear. There's always a body.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What are they gonna do then? So it's so you write that first story first of what actually happened. Yeah. And then you try to find points. Okay, well, what is the connection point of our sleuth? How did they get involved in this story? Yeah. And then from there, it's, finding clues and red herrings along the way. So it's almost like you're writing one story. One story is the real one, and then the other story is kind of overlaid on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also think about, I may be overgeneralizing. You can tell if I'm overgeneralizing. But that first story of what really happened, you tell backwards, and the story on top, you tell forwards. Flannery O'Connor said every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, but not necessarily in that order. And so, the story you just described of somebody being bitter, somebody having a reason and then killing a person and then hiding the body. And that's always so interesting. What do you do with the physical problem of a body? Mm-hmm. I heard Nate Bargatze say the other day, when about how hard it is to dig a hole. He says, no wonder people are always buried in a shallow grave when they've been murdered. It's hard to dig a hole.
It is hard.
but you work that story out beginning, middle, and end, but you don't tell that beginning and middle. You start with the end.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
For that plot. And then, the story of Kathy getting involved, you're telling that more or less chronologically. That is beginning, middle, and end, but she is in the process of getting to her end. She's going end to beginning on the other story.
Yeah. I've never thought about it that way, but that is really true.
Yeah. It's so helpful to think whatever story you're telling, there's no requirement to start at the beginning. You need to know the beginning, middle, and end, but that doesn't mean you start at the beginning when you tell the story.
And actually, believe it or not, that's how I write a story too. I don't go chronologically. If I'm feeling really excited about a scene, I'll have my outline. So I'm not just coming up with random scenes. But if I'm feeling excited about scene W, I will write scene W and not feel like I have to start writing chronologically all the way through.
Yeah. I think that's wise. Whatever keeps the pen moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what else do you have to say to writers of non-mysteries that mystery writing that you've learned from mystery writing that's helpful to people who write other things?
I mean, it's nothing that you haven't said before, I'm sure, but with mystery writing especially, you really have to know the entire scope of the story before you really sit down to write it. Because if you don't know how the crime actually happened, then how are you going to? If you don't know who done it, there's no way your reader will have a chance figuring who done it. And some of the best writing advice I actually received was from a literary agent that I had actually for the murder mysteries before she couldn't find a publisher for them, way before Bandersnatch was in the picture. And she encouraged me to write the entire plot of my book in 5 double-spaced pages. And then once I had done that, to take those 5 double-spaced pages and to condense them down into 1 double-spaced page. And so by doing that, you're forcing yourself to be really, really, really clear on your beginning, your middle, and your end. And I feel like no matter what genre you're writing for, that if you have if you know where you're beginning and you know where you're ending, that's going to help just cut out a lot of the unnecessary rabbit trails while you're writing your middle. and it will save you so much time. And then if you have, obviously, writing is an organic process, and sometimes you get ideas and you try to, follow them. But if you find that you're diverging really too much from the original, if I follow this, I'm not going to end up here. That can give you wisdom too for editing later on. Like, does this contribute to the actual, backbone of the story? And if it doesn't, then maybe it's better to keep that for a different story for another time or something. But I think especially with murder mystery writing, you just have to be so clear on where you're going, so that way you can faithfully drop clues. I do get annoyed with Agatha Christie sometimes because she will either drop too few clues or so many that I feel like you could honestly like put all the characters in a hat and pick out any one of them. Anyone had means, motive, and opportunity. I like to be a little bit more kind in my writing, so that hopefully people can get it. But
I want to push back a little bit on that idea of knowing from the start how everything's gonna go. And I definitely see how important that would be for a mystery writer. The novels I've written 4, and only one ended the way I thought it was going to end.
Really?
And in each case, I think whatever, if I had written to what I originally thought I was going to write to, it would have been a pretty bland, pretty blah book. Because my best ideas, you're a lot smarter halfway through the process than you are at the beginning of the process.
That I certainly would agree with.
But so you've written, I don't know how many, you've written at least 2 mysteries. But you were in each of those, you were completely committed to that ending, right? I mean, nothing changed really.
In that, I knew who did it. I know who's going to jail at the end, and I know the clue that Kathy gets in order to figure that out. Honestly, I wrote Not to Be so long ago. But I can't remember exactly like how the scenes at the end actually came together. But I think again, we're talking backbone here. Like like not necessarily every line of dialogue or every detail, or and again, if you come to like bunny trails that enhance the story, by all means, but I would probably not want to start, character X is the murderer. Well, actually, it'd be better if character Y. Well, if character Y is the murderer, then we better give some clues to that at the beginning.
Sure.
Because otherwise the readers will think I cheated.
Right. I love the idea of us setting, being a stage play. Because you've got all these free characters, and they're also liable to be goofy. I was in plays in school, and it was personalities find themselves in these theater situations. So I love that. And then of course, I mean, even when you're working with a play as recognizable as Hamlet, that gives you all kinds of opportunities to do things. And would this play have been different if? I'm sorry. Would your mystery story have been different if the play had been not Hamlet?
Probably. Well, it would have a different title.
Right.
Actually, essentially, no. I could have used any play where somebody is supposed to die on stage, because again, when he dies on stage, nobody thinks that anything is wrong. Hamlet is supposed to die on stage, and he is supposed to get carried out to the wing. Nobody realizes that anything is actually wrong until curtain call, and he's not getting off the pallet.
And Chet's not the kind of guy who would miss a curtain call.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So, if there had been another play where a murder takes place on stage, but it's expected, I could have used that too. But because I was more familiar with Hamlet, and because everybody had to read Hamlet in school,
Yeah, right.
it was
Yeah.
a bit more of an easy thing for people who haven't necessarily acted in that particular
Yeah.
play. They'd have
Yeah.
some reference for.
Yeah. Have you seen Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead? Do you know that movie
I
or play?
haven't. I haven't.
Yeah. Well,
But I probably should.
it's a Tom Stoppard play, and of course, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, as you know, but for the sake of anybody who doesn't, minor characters. They might have one line in Hamlet, and
Okay.
and in the play / movie, they're the main characters, and so those two are trying to figure out what's going on around them, and in the background, you'll see Polonius giving his speech to, was it Laertes he gives a speech to give him all his advice. I mean, like, so you'll see in the background the scenes that you recognize from Hamlet, but they're just off in the background as if they're extras, and our main characters are these two really goofy. You should watch it, you'd love it.
Yeah.
And so they are in the, because in Hamlet, what, they're like spies from some other country.
They're like the messengers or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, and they get murdered, and so there's that line in Hamlet, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is the title to the play, which made me think of your borrowing a line from Hamlet for the title of your thing. But again, it's a point of view. It's also another point of view driven story, because we've got the point of view of these two people that you've never spent 5 minutes of your life thinking about.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask a bonus question off of my usual end question. Because I warned you I was going to ask who are the writers that make you want to write. But before I ask that, can you recommend some favorite mystery series?
Ooh.
Like on streaming, TV.
Yeah. Oh, on TV?
Yeah, on TV. On streaming.
Oh, yeah. Well, Emma Fox, a friend of ours, she introduced me to Death in Paradise, which has 14 seasons. It's a British murder mystery series, and it's set in the Caribbean.
Oh, right.
Basically, you have a stodgy British officer who's sent to the Caribbean to solve a murder. And he does such a good job, they won't let him leave, even though all he wants is drizzly, cold England, and he can't stand sand, and he can't stand sun, and he hates it there. So that's another fun point of tension. And it just comes up again when things are slow.
Yeah.
He hates the Caribbean, just pops up, and it keeps things fun. There's also Foyle's War, which is just an excellent kind of
good
history, drama, murder mystery series where I've never seen a series where the historical setting played so much a part in the crimes themselves, because basically it's World War II, and it's amazing how many people in the series justify their own petty murders because they're like, well, it's a war, so who cares if one more German is dead or, whatever. And he's a homicide detective. Trying to solve these crimes, and then there's a new one that came out and it was covered by World Magazine, Ludwig. It's remarkably clean, and the premise for that one is that there's a detective who disappears on the job, and his wife goes to the twin brother of that detective and basically asks him to impersonate the detective so that he can go into the office and get her a notebook that she needs in order to figure out what happened to her husband. It just so happens, though, that this very socially awkward twin brother is a brilliant puzzle solver and puzzle setter. He's the person who authors the crossword puzzles in the newspaper. And so he keeps getting roped into these murder investigations, and he's never seen a dead body before, and he's never solved a mystery before, but darn it, he's really good at figuring out who done it. So they keep having him solve these murders against his will, and he's trying to help his sister-in-law the whole time figure out what happened to his brother. And
Oh, that's hilarious.
that's a fun one too. But I have to say with that one, they cheat a little bit. It's wonderfully entertaining to watch, but they do not give you nearly enough clues to solve
Really?
who really actually did the murder. But very much worth a watch.
Oh, okay. I will check it out. All right. So last question. Who are the writers who make you want to write?
Madeleine L'Engle, who wrote A Wrinkle in Time, is one of the first people who come to mind. And basically, I just could not believe when I reread A Wrinkle in Time as an adult, how much story she was able to cram into only 12 chapters. And I really loved how she used protagonists that I could relate to, just kind of the awkward, smart, but not super popular girl at school who, and just the themes in her book. She was very anti mindless conformity. And so she has a planet in her book through all this interstellar traveling that they do, where everybody's like bouncing a ball at the same time and calling their kids to get in at the same time. And it's all controlled by this like evil brain-like character. And the one thing that the brain can't control is the concept of love. And so it's just it's your classic, love triumphing over evil, a type of story. And again, just so much story and so little space. So I really love her. Louisa May Alcott. I never read Little Women until not the full version. I read like a children's version when I was a little girl. But until I had my own kids and was homeschooling them. And it is hard, like just she would catch me, like she would just say something so true, and like it would bring tears to my eyes, and my kids thought I had problems because I would pause while reading aloud to them. She just had a really wonderful way of building her characters, so that way you knew these people by the end of the novel. And she just littered so much, littered, that's a very derogatory term. She breadcrumbed, she planted all these little nuggets of truth and just wove them into her story, so you didn't even realize that you were, hearing a sermon as well as reading a good story. So I love her work. And then Dave Barry and Ridley Pierce, I believe, both like 30 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't know, really long time, wrote a prequel to Peter Pan and called Peter and the Starcatchers. And I had an English teacher friend recommend the book to me, and I was like, prequel, that's code for I wasn't clever enough to come up with my own story. But it's really good. And just the way that they found humorous explanations to explain things like why Peter Pan can fly and why he doesn't age. And I think that they're at least the first book, it's a 3-part series, but I think they did their best work in their first book. But Peter and the Starcatchers, I actually like it better than the original. They basically, the people who write stories that sweep me up. Those are my favorites.
I didn't believe you when you said that book was 20 years old, but it came out in 2004. I just looked it up. So
there you go.
I can't believe it's 20 years old.
Everything's getting 20 years.
Well, because my kids weren't even all that little when it came out, but my kids are a lot more than 20 years old. So, all right. Well, Katherine Mitchell, thank you so much for being here. This has been a lot of fun. And
thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, well, let's catch up soon. And so you've got another book coming out in the spring of 26. Is that right?
Spring or summer.
Spring or summer. Okay, but we don't know the title. Might be an Othello line, but it might not be.
Right. It might be Love Not Wisely, or it might be something completely different.
All right. Well, in the meantime, hopefully people can enjoy Not to Be. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
The Habit Podcast is brought to you by The Rabbit Room, where art nourishes community and community nourishes art. You can support their work, including this podcast, by becoming a member. Visit rabbitroom.com/membership. Special thanks as well to Taylor Leonard for letting us use her song Diamonds as the theme music for the Habit Podcast. You can learn more about Taylor and follow her work at taylorleonard.com. The Habit membership is a library of resources for writers by me, Jonathan Rogers. More importantly, The Habit is a hub of community where like-minded writers gather to discuss their work and give each other a little more courage. Find out more at thehabit.co.
If you've enjoyed this podcast episode, consider joining the Rabbit Room membership. Your membership helps sustain this community, funding everything from publishing and podcasts and theater productions to events and programs that support artists who create with a Christ-centered vision. We'd love to have you on board. Learn more at rabbitroom.com/member.